And if you mix, you know, these people coming back expecting something they're comfortable with something that they're maybe not comfortable with, combined with these new players that have never tried 6v6 ever,
Yeah,
and then they don't like it either, it means that the reaction is probably going to be overall more negative than potentially even positive. That is,
yeah, Flats, you give it to him. Yeah, you can yap about 7v7 as long as you want. As long as you're right about this, I don't care. It's absolutely fine to me. I'm nervous. Okay, this could be the best thing ever or the worst thing ever, and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Okay. Welcome back to another Director's Take. Back in July, we opened the conversation about 6v6 and 5v5. Back in July, you kind of addressed it. You said the good things, but you also said some very concerning things. We'd like to continue that conversation as well as share a few updates coming in Season 13 and 14. Previously, we talked about the different format changes throughout Overwatch's history, why we switched to 5v5, and where we plan to go from here. Including in those next steps, we said we were looking at running a series of tests to try out different core team composition formats for Overwatch 2. So I haven't read this, I just knew it was about 6v6. So this is different compositions? Is this like max lock? People are saying in chat that they're doing some sort of max amount of characters lock per role. These format tests are all about understanding if we can make the core game even stronger. Every day millions of players jump into the core 5v5 format, and the last thing we want is to negatively impact that experience. The exciting thing about these tests is the potential to introduce something that could appeal to another group of players, ones that might have felt uncertain about the move to 5v5 when Overwatch 2 launched. Interesting there, appeal to another group of players. So there's a kind of thing where they do these dev notes that they have to be exclusively positive when they do them, which is fairly reasonable. I mean, it's PR speak to begin with, but when you see something like potential to introduce something that could appeal to another group of players, ones that felt uncertain about the move to 5v5, do they mean appeal to the players that are still here? Do they mean appeal to the players that quit when 5v5 was announced? Like, what specifically are they talking about here? Are they admitting that people did leave because 5v5 was a worse format for quite a few people? I know that if we have two modes, it's a wider audience in general, but it's interesting wording. If you didn't read the previous 6v6 Director's Take blog, check it out, because now we're going to dive into plans for the 6v6 and format tests mentioned there. The team has been exploring our vision and development for these tests, and we're happy to announce we'll be running 2 different 6v6 tests in Season 14, so 2 tests. The first launch a week into the season will look like a little different than the standard 2-2-2 role queued from Overwatch. Part of this series of tests, sorry, when they say Overwatch I always forget because Overwatch is the only brand I recognize. Overwatch 2 is an amorphous amalgam of crap that they shoveled on. The 2 was always, it's not 2 anymore and it never was 2. Part of this series of tests is to not only judge our players' appetite for larger team sizes, but for us to explore different ways that we might implement a change without running into the same problems we had previously. With that in mind, our first test will be a variation of OpenQ, which we're internally referring to as Min 1 Max 3. Each team of 6 must have at least 1 of each role and no more than 3. Okay, so variation of OpenQ of Max 3. That's really interesting. It definitely brings unique opportunities to hate on the solo tank, because what they're assuming there's definitely going to be solo tank. The trouble is the amount of tanks in the game scales for 2 things. It scales on first how comfortable tanks are and how much people actually want to play tanks, and it also scales on how good having more tanks is. So we ended up in this like curious state in Overwatch 1 where goats was meta but nobody wanted to play tanks. It was kind of this weird thing. So Min 1 Max 3, I assume they're going to do some scaling for the tanks if they are 1 or 3. If they don't, the tank's just going to get absolutely hated on. The 6v6 format with 1 tank is possibly the worst format to tank in. And I'm very worried about the death spiral of tanking, where essentially what happens is you end up with 1 tank, the tank experience gets worse because you have 1 tank, therefore people stop playing tank, and that can average down the players playing tank in general. So not forcing a lock of 2 can worsen the experience. I'm not reading further, but without significant adjustment, this seems like it will absolutely dumpster the tank experience and won't be that like viable in any way, shape, or form. I thought they'd just do a max 2, right? Did anyone else think minimum 1 max 2 was what they were going to do? Maybe they got a different test here, but I don't think this is going to work in any way, shape, or form. I think it's just broken from outset. There are a few different combinations here that you'll be able to try, but this opens up many different team compositions that we haven't seen before in Overwatch 2. You'll be able to switch roles on the fly during a match as long as that switch doesn't break the limit. If it's max 2 that it's just forced to do, that's true. Yeah, no, that was a stupid thing to say. What I meant to say is flexible on one role, not flexible on the others. There's a reason no one plays open queue, and doubling down on the super solo role concept just sounds like the problems we have now on steroids. Yeah, I feel like you either commit to 2 tanks and lock them in and leave everything else flexible, or you just don't. It's a struggle. Besides experimenting with a format that could be seen as a middle ground to rogue queue and open queue, this will give us a look at how Overwatch 2 heroes, abilities and updates work in a 6v6 environment before we expand to other types of tests. So they're going to do the testing that we've already done. It's important to iterate on your work and not just scrap all the work that other people have done and start over. If they just start with base Overwatch 2, this is going to be an absolutely screwed test in all forms. That's really bad if they're actually just going to start from base Overwatch 2. Middle ground between rogue queue and open queue is interesting. Did we ever have trouble with 4 of the same hero role being stacked? No, we never did. Tank was quad tank for a little bit before we discovered that 3 tanks was better. Yeah, no, that was never... So it's still just open queue, right? Open queue with some restrictions for no reason? Yeah, meta for what, like 1 week? There's never really been a problem with 4 tanks, so I guess it just is open. The minimum 1's interesting, don't get me wrong. Like minimum 1. I wonder if they're going to give some... If they don't give a massive boon to people for being minimum 1, that's quite a problem. They don't want a role missing? No, I get that. Minimum 1 is definitely interesting and different. Minimum 1 Roadhog, exactly, yes. 1 Roadhog, 1 Mercy. Open queue, but the 1 person that doesn't go tank is in every game now. No, it is different from open queue, I guess, because it's minimum 1, but you can't have 1 of 2 roles. So you can't have 1 tank, 1 support. So if you have 1 tank, you have to have 2 support if you want 3 DPS. So that is actually different. Maybe I was just misreading that there. So it does have some restrictions that are better than open queue. This gives us a look at how Overwatch 2 heroes' abilities and updates work in 6v6 environment before we expand to other types of tests. So this seems like a sandbag test to learn their lessons. There's some very obvious changes that they're going to have to make in order to make Overwatch 2 heroes valid into 6v6. And if they don't make those changes, the test is going to go badly. It just is. Specifically, our characters they need to very much think about. And AoE effects, they really need to think about. There's a load of things they need to think about. The test will have Season 9 changes, which is concerning. Yeah, Season 9 changes are definitely staying in for this test. Besides experimenting with a format that can be seen as a middle ground, sure. The second 6v6 test during Season 14 mid-cycle will be the classic 2-2-2 composition, but will incorporate some new principles we introduced from Overwatch 2, like less CC and hero works. So the first test is without hero reworks? Because I assumed when they said Overwatch 2 heroes, abilities, and updates, they meant these 2 things. So the first test is going to be min 1, max 3 without hero reworks. Yeah, that's very weird. And it's not very hard to write this. It's weird that they've made it unclear, because this seems like one of those where you'd be like, well, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. And it's like, yeah, well, we're just like these 2 levels. But yeah, that's weird. So I'm going to guess the first test is without. But what type of reworks are we talking about? Are we talking about Sombra's new rework? Are we talking about Thara's rework, Roadhog's rework, all of that type of thing? Maybe it's intentionally unclear, yeah. Maybe we're talking about Zarya being able to bubble herself and other people when we say that, but that's still Overwatch 2 heroes' abilities and updates. Probably like Zarya. But yeah, they specified the updates, and then they specified the hero reworks, like 2 different things. Malga Cardiac kind of stuff? Hard to tell. Interesting. Personally, I feel like more CC is actually better for the 6v6. I think I've gone through a couple of levels when I've just kind of been thinking about this. And I've come to the conclusion that Flashbang probably was a necessary evil in Overwatch 1, especially in 6v6, in order to allow people to fight angles. But you have to be very careful with limiting, because it is a tank hate option, anything that is an ability that can be used on a tank that doesn't do damage, always hates on tank more than DPS. But you have to be very careful with limiting the amount of these that you can put into the game, because at a certain point, people just abandon using them to fight out tanks on angles and just use them to barrel down main onto the enemy tanks and murder them, right? Brig Bash Stun? Yeah, well, Brig Bash Stun is very much something that should be used in order to fight an angle on the side, but then they just like got it into a brawl comp. You need to be very careful at pairing the characters that have tank busting abilities, such as Flashbang, such as Rapid Fire on Hanzo, with the ability to kind of exist in brawl at the same time. I like root flashbang. That's like the one good thing Overwatch 2 even did. It took them forever to get there. Personally, I don't like root flashbang. I think root flashbang might even be worse than the old flashbang, especially in this format. There's definitely types of abilities like that sure, like these abilities are really bad when you can just run down main with it. I think that's more Cassidy's problem that they worked him into a brawler on purpose. The fact that he's used like that. Flaps was right. They might just be killing the 6v6 argument by running this first. Yeah, very possibly. Even if they're not doing it intentionally, Doobie, they might be still. It's a hard one. The 6v6 test will have their own card in unranked alongside other modes. Okay, own card in unranked. So where is that on the console? So it's going to be in here by them. Okay, that's a fair enough place to put it. I wish it was on front page, personally. Flash finally gave up on 7v7. Oh god, what a stupid idea. And they will not take the place of other types of game modes like Seasonal Offense or Quick Play Hacked. You'll also be implementing a series of balance changes that will apply to these two test modes only. The power and survivability of tanks will go down in these 6v6 formats, and we'll be taking a look at whether we need many of the passives that we've added in Overwatch 2. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's quite a lot of the questions I wanted answered in a vague as fuck way. So headshot passive, armor maybe, stuff like that will definitely go down. The health bars will go down. So some things are going to be interestingly changed. A series of balance changes that will apply to the two test modes only. That's kind of Barnum. I think everyone knew they were going to make some sort of balance changes. If they didn't, that was broken. Yeah, so essentially what they're saying is this has been made more important than Quick Play Hacked and other things like that. Yeah, so I'm just trying to decipher this. Can anyone give me an accurate reading of what this means? Because it's very hard to tell. So there's going to be power and survivability nerfs on both tests. They'll implement a series of balance changes for both tests, regardless of what that means. In one test, they're going to have Overwatch 2 heroes' ability they're going to test how the Overwatch 2 heroes' abilities and updates work in the 6v6 environment. And then the second one, they're going to incorporate new principles such as less CC and hero reworks. But that seems like it's the same thing. So I was thinking that this was going to be a straight ship of Overwatch 2 with tank changes. And then this was going to be extra reworks and toning back that they learned for the first test. But saying you're not going to, I don't know, less CC and more reworks is just, how do you put in Overwatch 2 heroes and abilities without putting in less CC? Because Flashbang is the Overwatch 2 rework and it is the CC. So like, what are we talking about here? Yeah, for the first one, just health pools has changed. Yeah, but if health pools had changed, they'd have to revert CC and all, like, I don't know, man. First paragraph, Overwatch 2 heroes Soja and Juno work in 6v6. Second paragraph, how 6v6 work with less CC. Yeah, but that'd be the same test because the Overwatch 2 heroes do have less CC. It just makes no sense. I don't think there's any parsing this out. Sounds to me like they're going to do the 2-2-2 going on from latest Overwatch 1 patch and add stuff, whereas the first test will be going from what we have now. I think it could be anything at this point. Yeah, I feel like it could be anything. I think it's hard to say. This is good. This is, as we expected, I think that's good that they're not burying it in menus. Having it on the card here, that's good. We'll be hosting 2 5v5 format experiments in Season 13 that are also aimed at testing flexibility within this format, similar to the 6v6 tests. So this starting in Season 14? That's mid-cycle Season 14. Yeah, so before we get the 6v6, it's interesting that they've put 6v6 before, because they know that's what people are looking for. They're doing some 5v5 tests. So the first one is going to be testing flexibility within the format, similar to the 6v6 tests. We're planning a quick play hacked coming soon, which we're calling Limit 2. This will be 5v5 with a maximum number of each role limited to 2. This includes tanks, but they'll be tuned to open queue balance, meaning they'll have less health. You can freely switch heroes as roles as long as the new role doesn't already have 2 players. Well, it's pretty fucking obvious, Blizzard, what's going to happen there, guys. Guys, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen there. If you pick one tank, you're going to be feeling absolutely awful. And if somebody else doesn't want to play tank with you, you'll have a death spiral of tank player base numbers. That's pretty obvious. This is them trying to soft sandbag the test by saying nobody wants to play tanks because people didn't want to play tank when we allowed them to be able to play. But this is just open queue with all the problems of open queue in terms of being able to hate on the solo tank still. Like the 66 limits test, we're trying to look at how the game in its current state works if players have more freedom with team compositions without making it full open queue. For the Season 13 mid-cycle, we're planning a special game mode currently called Kingmaker, like Limit 2. Like Limit 2, the maximum number of each role is limited to 2. However, the player who is alone on their role gets a bonus. We'll talk more about how the mode works in more detail closer to its launch. But like Limit 2, we're exploring more freedom in 5v5 while enabling more types of composition to succeed. Okay, so it's an interesting thing to think about how, and people have tried it in the past to make one big tank versus two small tanks, 5v5 versus 6v6 kind of thing. It would be very interesting to see how a super DPS would work, because I feel like DPS don't actually get any, they don't get any worse by having one of them than having two of them. In general, in fact, quite a lot of the time they step on their own space. So that's one of those where maybe DPS don't need a buff. In terms of solo support, that's really interesting. Because solo support's just, if they have to support 2 DPS and 2 tanks, that's going to be a very high APM job. That's going to be pretty much awful for most players. Imagine you're playing Ana and 4 people around you are taking damage at the same time. That's a lot of pressure, man. Even if you just change Ana's HPS up to like 100. First off, you made it so the person you're pocketing is unkillable. Second off, I feel like the support numbers are definitely one that we shouldn't play around with for a very important reason. Like, if you have 3 supports, the support is spread out so much that everyone's getting some level of support and people that don't lose a duel by default. And if we have 1 support, then whoever is being pocketed at the time is basically like having a permanent life grip on the person that's being pocketed, right? It's basically like having harmony and mercy on them at all times. So it's, super healers would be adjusted on a per hero basis. Superhero sounds like a balancing nightmare. I can appreciate they're testing things with 5v5. Yeah, no, I'm not saying this is a bad idea in general. I'm saying that the same open queue problems with 2 tanks hating on 1 is going to happen. The same conceptual problems of 1 support being incredibly hard to balance is going to happen. And I don't think 1 DPS would need any buff whatsoever. So it's really on the implementation here, yeah. Guess it'll be something similar to the perks we got. The single role will get 1 pick of the perks. Yeah, no, could be. Could be. Anna was in Heroes of the Storm and her base kit didn't work. They gave her a ton of self-sustain to compensate. I'm sorry, you are the only person in existence that knows Hero of the Storm lore. I'm sorry to tell you that, and you're oh god. But yeah, sure. Give Anna double nade. Yeah. Give Anna a nuke button. Why not? Old grandma, probably jaded from the war. Give her a nuke. I'm sure it'll go well. Quick Play Hack, Limit 2 and Kingmaker will provide an excellent benchmark and framework for us going into the 6v6 test. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's going to give you a misleading benchmark, because the benchmark's going to be compared against whether people will want to play tank if they have the chance of being a solo tank. You basically create a tragedy of the common type situation where the one person that is likely to go out of their way in order to be a tank gets locked into tank and can't swap off it, which just disincentivizes people to play tank in the first place, right? It is this like whoever locks first gets abandoned on the tank role. That's really scary for me. Kingmaker is just spreading the super solo tank suffering to other roles. Well, specifically the support role, I don't think it matters for DPS, but it's the kind of thing where, like, if you lock tank and they lock 2-2, you're stuck on that, right? And you're stuck as a solo tank. You're captive. It's gonna be a if this solo tanking is a bad experience into 2 tanks, what is going to be is it going to be a stalemate where nobody will want to play it, or it's going to be a race for the 2-2, because the moment you go to 2-2, you then have a choice to swap over. I feel like they're creating perverse incentives there. I'm really scared about that. Looking forward to seeing what statistic we can gather as you drive into these modes alongside your feedback, which are one of our strongest data points. World with 5v5 and 5v6. As we mentioned in our previous piece, we'll be watching the reception and results of these tests closely. Another sentiment from that piece that I'd like to reiterate here is that the Overwatch team wants to make the game that you want to play. So what does that mean for the future based on these experiments? In the world where a surge of players join this mode and continuously plays it, then we have the signal we need to do more with it. I think what that more is depends on the level of excitement. Is there a world when both 5v5 and 6v6 exist permanently in Overwatch 2? If you'd asked me a few months ago, I would have said no. As we discuss Overwatch 2's future in light of making this game that our players want to play, we know our players can want more than one experience. Personally, I consider that splitting the player base is a really bad thing. When you split the player base in general for competitive games, it tends to be that one system of play is delegitimized by the fact that it's split into 2, and there is a overarching professional way of playing. Fortnite Zero build is more casual, whereas build is more serious. It worked in Fortnite. There is no clear casual versus serious. I agree, Lucas. Casual versus serious works as a definition. Casual in Overwatch is the non-competitive format. Serious is a competitive format. What you're doing is you're essentially splitting the player base between two modes. And when you split the player base between two modes, it's this kind of like Call of Duty map problem from back in the day, where they release map packs, and every single time they released a map pack for a Call of Duty, the player base that is in the old maps and can't queue for the new ones gets smaller and smaller and squished until the queues are basically awful. Splitting the player base is a real problem that games have to contend with. I'd be surprised if they wanted to, and I do think there's serious legitimacy concerns for any competitive game, especially since we're a casual competitive game now, whatever that means, by having both. No build was a response to skill ceiling being so high it pushed out casual players, sent to a battle royale matchmaking. Yeah, 100%, yeah. As we discussed Overwatch 2 future in light of making the games that our players want to play, yeah. The tests, these are concerning. Not because of anything else, but I feel like this is going to be a world of any... And the worst part is players are really, really, really bad at telling why things feel bad. They're really bad at that. They're awful at that. So you have this kind of like situation where players will be not wanting to play tank and they won't be able to tell you why. Or there'll be less tanks and they won't be able to tell you why there's less tanks. They'll be using data in order to balance it. They're just throwing so much stuff at players at once. I don't mind them throwing stuff at players at once. I just feel like the test for the non-legitimate 6v6 format or the non-balanced 6v6 format is going to be used to say that the 6v6 format has untenable problems that aren't fixable when we know they are fixable because we can do them quite trivially. If they split the queues, it'd be roll queue and open queue all over again. That's my feeling. Obviously, they're saying they'd be able to support both of them at the same time, but realistically, I don't think that's true. Players will play the first couple of these tests and then conclude that the format change will be an issue, so we need 5v5. I feel like that's true, yeah. Especially the fact that they're front-loading these 2-tank tests into the 5v5 format, where it's probably going to be more problematic. People's conclusion of the 5v5 tests are going to be that if we can have 2 tests, the game's going to be horribly unbalanced, because all they're really doing is doing open queue for the most part. Kingmaker seems interesting. I really want to see what they do for the tanks. Every single individual tank's going to have to be individually balanced for it. The current Overwatch 2 tanks versus the Overwatch 1 rebalanced tanks that we have will not be a fair fight. The Overwatch 2 tanks are just going to get hated on for the most... They could do a form of it. It could be possible, but it's going to be the situation where the tanks are going to have to play around the enemy tank because the enemy tank is unkillable or able to walk straight past them, or the enemy tank's going to be hated on. It's a very careful knife balancing problem, and as with everything, these are balance issues, not anything else. They can't put their finger on what the issue is actually, so it must be the format. Yeah, I agree, that's what's probably going to happen. So the team can be more stoked to share these updates with you, and we'll be diving in alongside you. The way that we take Overwatch to the next level is by centering all of you at the heart of what we create and the decisions we take together. Your feedback and collaboration with our team will always be an essential part of Overwatch's development. Stay tuned for more news and announcement for the weeks to come. We'll have more information to share on the 6v6 tests in Season 14 and Quick Play. Yeah, so I'm very concerned. Season 9 changes are going to be kept in. There's no hint that they're going to take them out. There's also no hint that they're going to look at the really problematic heroes for the 6v6 mode, like Doomfist and Venture. There's not enough specifics to say they will do anything specific, and I've learned in the past that when the Blizzard team aren't specific about things, it's because they aren't doing them. Or when they're relatively vague, it's because they don't really know what the future is. Yeah, I'm concerned. You know the day after this mode comes out, Frito will be on like, well, I told you, it feels awful, and we'll have to deal with that. I've got a feeling SVB and other people like that are going to be happy. They've been campaigning on this open queue, semi-open queue thing for years. Junker Labs is fun until someone gets a rocket carry build or the Diva Boosters nonsense. Have you seen the Frito response to the Spilo video? Okay, so I was tempted to do the Frito response to the Spilo video, right? I've already got my response to the Spilo video, uploaded to YouTube, and I've already got a Frito response uploaded to YouTube, and I'm like, I would love to rip him a new one, because he is making zero sense, or he's just going off his preconceived notions that entire time. He's there like, oh, well, I haven't even tested anything, and yet I know exactly what's happening. And it's just like, it would be fun to do, but it would also set the world on fire. And guarantee, because the Frito video did very well on my YouTube, so guarantee that that he's seen it by this point. As a direct response to him, guarantees he's seen it. I don't think I doubt he likes me if he had seen it, because someone that can make you look stupid is a little bit of a rough one. Oh god. Let the world burn. Let the world burn. I'm never going to be invited to LA for free, am I, Val? No, I'm never going to be invited there.
What
We're
about
just going to go fast through these. We're not going to linger. We're not going to listen to them talk about it. We're just going to go through the commentary.
Here's what I'm going to do, and here's what I'm going to ask everybody to do. I'm going to give this dev team a fresh start. I'm going to forget the past to the best of my ability, and I'm going to give them a fresh start to crack this.
That's a really stupid thing to do, given the we can't give them a fresh start. We need to treat them with as much speculation as possible and look for all the problems that they could be potentially accidentally dumpstering the mode with.
Back in July, we opened the conversation around 6v6 and 5v5. Now we'd like to continue that conversation and share a few updates coming in Season 13 and 14. Previously, we talked about different format changes throughout Overwatch's history, why we switched to 5v5, and what the plan would be from here. Included in those stats, we said we're looking at running a series of tests to try out different core team composition formats in Overwatch 2.
Yeah, as soon as they put the immortalities back in the game, you'll lose his mind.
These format tests are all about understanding we can make the core game even stronger. Every day, millions of players jump into the core 5v5 format. The last thing we want to do is negatively impact that experience. Okay. The exciting thing about these tests is the potential to introduce something that could appeal. Yeah. Okay, guys, what about all the players who logged on every single day to Overwatch 1? I guess you could say that they're learning their lesson with this by not like abandoning the game. Fair, but you could, I get what their point is. I get what their point is. It's like, there's a certain expectation of product, but I would say the queue times, especially with tank, queue times getting longer, people clearly not adapting or liking this new form of tank doesn't help, but we'll see. The exciting about these tests is the potential to do something that could appeal to another group of players, ones that might have felt uncertain about the move to 5v5 when Overwatch 2 launched, which was a lot of people. If you didn't read the previous 6v6 blog, check it out, because now we're going to dive into the plans for 6v6 and the format test mentioned there. All right, so it looks like the 6v6 test won't be until Season 14, which happens to be when Marvel Rivals drops, so which might just push a lot of players out anyway. We'll see. The team has been
I want to see the reaction compilation of Samito playing into Kingmaker, Break Raid Boss. Yeah, they'll give back the shield bash for shield and other things like that. Can't wait for Marvel Rivals.
Vision development for these tests. We're happy to announce that we're running 2 different 6v6 tests in Season 14. The first we're launching 1 week into the season. We'll look a little different than the standard 222 roll queue from Overwatch. Again, like they've essentially made every tank have the problem that Double Shield had in Overwatch 1. With that in mind,
yes. The problem with Double Shield wasn't that there were Double Shield. The problem with Double Shield wasn't that you couldn't shoot people. The problem was the damage that you did in Double Shield didn't matter because it couldn't lead to any meaningful difference in the team fights. And it's exactly the same with Shooting Tank right now, I'd argue. I'd argue that the Shooting Tank right now feels as bad as it did in Double Shield, unless there's 3 of you capable of targeting the tank. Because there's no meaningful change you can actually make to the game by doing it.
First test will be a variation of Open Queue, which we're internally referring to as Min 1 Max 3. Each team must have 6, each team of 6 must have at least 1 of each role. Okay, yeah, and no more than 3. So, okay. So you could run Goats Comp, basically. You could. There are a few different combinations that you'll be able to try, but this opens up many different team comps that we haven't seen before in Overwatch 2. You'll also be able to switch roles on the fly during that match, as long as that switch doesn't break the Min 1 Max 3 limit. Interesting. Besides experimenting with a format that could be seen as the middle ground between Role Queue and Open Queue, this will also give us a look at how Overwatch 2 heroes' abilities and updates work in a 6v6 environment before we expand to other type of tests. I mean, we already know how they work. They work better. They work better. The new Overwatch 2 heroes work better in 6v6, especially the tank heroes, than they did in 5v5. They just do. They don't have to do everything. They don't have to be Giga Sustain, and they have a gameplay loop that's way more engaging. The 6v6 code really has shown that, and years of the game has shown that too, so it's great to see that. So
I just argue right now that this is not, for anyone, because I'll probably shove this onto YouTube, for anyone that's on YouTube, please come to the 6v6 pugs we do every single damn weekend. It is an incredibly enjoyable experience to actually play a game mode that is not just reasonably well balanced, but actually has a interesting frontline resource flow and like there's so much more permitting for these kind of like weird characters to exist within the game. It's so fun. It's ridiculously fun. I love playing it. I really want to watch people read these 2 paragraphs, right? These 2 here, right? These are the ones that I have no fucking idea what this means. And it's just kind of crazy that they couldn't get somebody to proofread it so I could know what it meant. Does anyone know if any other commentator knows what they're actually going to test for the first like 2 6v6 tests? I'm going mad here. They just brush over it. Every single person brushes over it. This is the most important thing to read. How do people brush over it? Exactly what the tests are going to be. Yeah, I agree. I agree entirely. Random global regen is nice, and I think global regen's been it's actually received quite a lot of pushback. The moment I heard it was 5 seconds, I was like, you know what? Fair enough. I think 5-second global regen's absolutely fine. Yeah, I think people misunderstand how much global regen contributes to them not getting ult charge, and that creates an interesting skill curve as well, because you actually do need to purposely heal up people that have been damaged later ago in order to get more ult charge. So it even puts on extra layers onto the game. I'm entirely happy with global regen. The first one will be no changes to the current heroes, just tank health. The second one will be balance changes from what I've gathered. Yeah, that's my reading too. But less CC and hero reworks isn't balance changes, right? That there. Less CC is what they have for Overwatch 2. So if they put less CC up here, right? or just they destroyed that, I'd be like, that's absolutely fine. But I actually have no idea what they mean when they put that little bit there, that brackets. That's what's confusing me.
The idea of a super role is just fundamentally flawed in the game. In any game, really. It's hard to do that in a PvP game, whether it be a shooter, Dead by Daylight, doesn't matter, right? When players are relative enough to each other on opposing roles to where they can make plays consistently on each other, that's how you create the most player agency, and I think that's a good change. I don't, listen, I think that having Kingmaker, codename Kingmaker or whatever, this is just a variable that you shouldn't test here, in my opinion, though. Like, I get them wanting to do it, but they've already tried pickable passives, and to their credit, thank God they didn't add it. Good job, Blizzard. Good job, actually. Gotta give them credit on that. They could have added it, and they didn't. Thank God. So this is cool stuff that they're doing. I'm glad they're doing this stuff. We'll see.
I think the best thing that, in my opinion, I think the best thing that they could do in order to make the 6v6 format better, that they will never do, is create team-up incentives for combinations like Roadhog, Zarya, D.Va that are actually worse to make them a little bit better. The characters that actually, through testing, have no synergy, they should actually give them some sort of weird bonus. And they got so many different abilities, they could just add one into the game. I feel like the team-up ability... And don't get me wrong, Marvel Rivals has completely fucked their team-up stuff. They are brain dead. They didn't test anything. They didn't work out what characters actually have innate synergy. They just added them randomly, and what they're going to do is they're going to balance the numbers later. But in Overwatch, you could use that system to specifically target the things that have been revealed to not have synergy, and that would actually be a very good way of making it so that everything is okay. The Shark ult is funny. The Shark ult is funny. You're right. You're right.
Quick play hack limit 2 and Kingmaker will provide an excellent benchmark and framework for us going into 6v6 tests. We're looking forward to seeing what statistic a world with 5v5 and 6v6. This is actually possible. I'm really curious what they'll say here. I don't think that they have to hard commit to one format. It's okay if they change it. It's okay if they change it. I think that should...
Personally, I think they do have to hard commit to one format. I remember a lot of problems coming out from games being uncertain as to the direction. It really... It doesn't matter for the casual, but for competitive, they would need to switch one. And you can't just say competitive doesn't matter, because competitive is about 30% of the audience. So it does matter in some way, shape, or form what we actually.
Okay. Here's
what
I'm gonna do, and here's what I'm gonna ask everybody to do. I'm gonna give this dev team a fresh start. I'm gonna forget the past to the best of my ability, and I'm gonna give them a fresh start to crack this, because this is the new Team 4. Like, the new map team fixed up the maps. They're laying a foundation to build a healthy game.
And you'll make the note that Team 4 has stabilized after the layoffs. Can one of the Overwatch 1 reverts be removing Clash? Man, I just think they've added way too many game modes, and the whole point of Overwatch was the game modes that worked for a reason. Like, Payload worked for a fucking reason. And just making more game modes is essentially just advertisement. Did anyone see, I watched a flat short where he just did the maths earlier. So he essentially did, okay, they're making one map per 4 months, 3 maps a year, there's 6 different game modes. You're not getting a new map for your game mode for another 2 years. Right? Napkin maps it. Realistically, would you be happy with a payload map every 2 years? No. I'd be more happy if they removed all the other maps and they just did, they just did 2 payload maps, 2 capture point maps, and 2 hybrid maps, and that would be absolutely fine by me. I think payload works for a very good reason. It creates diverse, different play styles within the map as the map progresses, which favor different types of teams. So it basically mixes up who's actually good on different points. Take Clash and Flashpoint out back, one to the back of the head, another one to the heart.
And they're being honest and communicating. This is all that we've asked for.
I think they're trying to be honest and communicating, but this is very much couched. There's very much non-specifics, which is fine because they're not centered. But I also I don't know. I feel like the 5v5 being tested for certain things before it is going to definitely color people's idea of the 6v6 test. I don't think it's being done. What would I like more? I'd like a blind 6v6 test with more or less 7HSAW changes. That's what I'd like. I wouldn't like anything too complicated. I'd like them to acknowledge that community tests have been done and take some. And what is the problem with acknowledging that a community test has been done and they took inspiration from the community test? Because I guarantee you some people on the team have actually played 7HSAW. So what is the problem with acknowledging your community has tested something and worked out quite a lot of the kinks for you? What's the issue? Is it a legal thing? Their ego gets hurt. It's weird, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe it's a legal thing with having them do things. I don't see. pride has to be the only reason, but it's difficult because I don't want that many things. Legal thing, most likely. I don't see what it could be in terms of legal, because obviously anyone doing anything on your game and taking inspiration from the things they do to your game is entirely copyrighted by you, and there's no problems whatsoever there. I don't think they want to commit to anything yet, saying taking inspiration from something locks them into a certain direction. Yeah, you can say that, or you can say we've taken inspiration from parts of community tests that have happened in the past as to things that may be problematic or may be interesting to try as changes in the future. A non-committal phrase like that, I feel like, couches that, right? A good company would pay the people that did the work for them. You are talking to Blizzard Entertainment right now. If they announced that they were taking the code and implementing it, I don't think anyone would complain. They're probably intentionally being blind to it. It's weird, isn't it? If I was the PR manager, I'd say that after the tests. If you do too much work at Blizzard, they fire you. People doing free work for games is super wonky legally, even if all parties consent. At a certain point, taking inspiration from certain things, or saying we've looked at these these community tests and heard some of the problems that have existed within this. Obviously, I'm shooting the shit. Parenting was probably more correct than I am in terms of whether that would cause a problem. Power takes more inspiration from Pokemon and they're fine. Yeah.
And the main reason I've been so critical of them is because even right now, we're still living in a world and a game that's suffering from the bad decisions of the previous team for the last 6 years. This is the first time that we're really getting a hard look at Overwatch without the mistakes of the past in Overwatch 2.
I need healing.
I like what I'm hearing, but I've said that before. They need to follow through.
They do need to follow through. They do. But this is the new team's chance to prove themselves to me. And because they're doing it, I'm willing to give them a fresh start.
Let's move on. I think that's pretty much all Sam's going to say. Interesting that he's very positive over it. He just wanted the excuse to use the Happy Samito thumbnail. I guarantee you. The Happy Samito thumbnail is the thumbnail where he goes like, I'm farming my thumbnails right now. He just wanted 6v6. Yeah, 6v6 under any circumstances, I think. Happy Ralph thumbnail. Okay, next one, Flats. Let's see what Flats got. I want to know if anyone knows what they've said actually means.
14. Now, I was under the impression, and I had believed that I had read before that it was going to be season 13. So that's a little bit disappointing that it's not.
I don't think anyone's ever said season 13. Can anyone give a source for that? I feel like they never said it and people just started saying it.
Season 13. However, though, if it's season 14, give me more info, which we'll get in a second. That does make season 13 even more of a filler season, which is like, peek into the season. We'll look a little different than the standard.
They said it on Twitter? Okay, maybe I'm crazy.
Roll queued from Overwatch. Part of this series of tests is to not only judge our players' appetite for larger team sizes, but for us to explore different ways that we might implement a change without running into the
okay, fair enough.
Same problems.
Some said they thought it was 13 the other day as well.
With that in
maybe
mind,
there's been some communication behind the scenes that's leaked out, but somebody said, JFK said, Dev said it on Twitter, so maybe. It's obvious that they had something planned for season 13. It wasn't clear what they were doing, and maybe an individual dev thought it was the 6v6 test, but can you turn Flats up a little? Yeah, of course. Sorry.
Test will be a variation. I like that they're going spicy, but that, that's just going to be 1-3-2. Isn't it? Or 2-1-3, right? And the reason I say 3-1-2 and 2-1-3 is one, DPS, they're gonna probably throw it into like something like
supports
May.
Are just better DPS than DPS, so you just choose the supports instead.
Right. May is the likely cause, or maybe like Widow or something with super high impact. And then if you go the 3 tank route, you're probably going the really heavy brawler running in, playing Rush with like a maybe say Juno Lucio or Moira Juno, just like I'm trying to think like large healing while slamming at them type of deal, because there just isn't as much shields as like Overwatch 1, unless you play like Rein, Diva, Zarya, Juno. Oh my god, Rein, Diva, Zarya,
free
Juno.
Support will be meta 100%. Yeah, no, I think free support's going to be meta. Free supports. The trouble with Overwatch 2, in my thoughts for the 6v6 format, if you go to non-role lock, is that every single comp's gonna be very similar to Cyberdive in the idea, or the kind of like the kind of like comps where you didn't have something to target. They're all gonna play kind of like that, with a very far backline or a backline that can't be targeted. Moira's gonna be there a load. Rolf puts the video on 1.5 times, then I put the Rolf video on 1.75 times. Oi, Thiefling, get me back my watch hours, you bastard. I thought Kingmaker would only have 1 king per team. Yeah, that do be the maths. How can 113 be a thing? Because flats can't add up to 6 is the answer. No, yeah, so you can't have 2 Kingmakers at a time. It has to be 122. Is speeding up video actually bad for watch time? Yeah, weirdly enough it is. Do you know what I should do so it's not bad for watch time? What I should do is I should put my videos on 1.25 times speed by default and you have to slow it down. That's what I really should do, right? Yeah, so it's hours watched for the most part is the thing they use in the metric. It's pretty simplistic in the way. They want watch hours because watch hours translate to amount of ads.
No, Lucio would be kind of disgusting. Actually, it could get even crazier. What if you went like Queen? Okay, we'll talk about that later. The other version though of 1 or 213 is because sometimes when supports are really strong, like Zen, like the original goats was Moira, Lucio, Brig for anyone that wasn't there, and then eventually became
0.5 times speed, so 1 times is the fastest possible by default. Yeah.
Zen, Lucio, Brig.
Do we care about flats to take? We don't care about flats. It really matters what flats thinks though, Arkham, especially on the conclusion.
You could survive with less healing.
Make all your videos 350% speed. I'll watch them at 50%. Yeah, okay.
You would be able to try, but this opens up many different team compositions that we haven't seen before in Overwatch 2. You will be able to switch roles on the fly.
Okay, here we go. These next 2 paragraphs, this is what I don't understand. Does Flats understand? Why do it matter what Flats thinks? Why do it matter what Flats thinks? Because it's got 121,000 things and it was released 20 hours ago. 121,000 views, my dude. It really matters what Flats thinks. Flats is the beating heart of the community, whether you like it or not. Unfortunately, that is the situation we're in. That's what most of Plat will think. Yeah, that's true.
As long as the switch doesn't break the 1 minimal 3 max limit. I think this is bad for DPS players, like really bad for DPS players. But the thing is, though,
Reddit hates flats for unknown reason. Competitive Overwatch subreddit hates flats because the competitive Overwatch subreddit is completely jaded people that they need the Overwatch, right? They've been addicted for 10 years. They're never going to turn it off. They queue for 10 hours a night and then they watch OWCS in their downtime. Overwatch withdrawal shakes, exactly, yeah. Competitive Overwatch hates anyone that's even slightly negative. Competitive Overwatch would fucking hate me if they knew I existed. Oh, they'd hate me. They hate Samito, they hate Flats. Yeah, it's just anyone that's... The only person that they exclusively like is characters like Emongg, because Emongg is just a cool guy that's generally positive.
That's in a perfect world. In reality, you'd probably have 3 DPS every game because people love to play DPS.
Call yourself the lead developer of CP6.
Until you get to like really high levels and then people want to win and then you're going to get, please go goats, bro. This is my rank up game. Please go. Please, bro. Play goats, bro. One time, bro. I actually think roll queue is very, very important.
Yeah, me too.
Besides experimenting with a format that could be...
It's not that roll queue was drastically important, to be clear, guys, chat. It's not that it was drastically important. It's that this is way too big of a step to do all at once. 222 is a very easy to balance format that Blizzard can't really fuck up, but doing a half open queue test and half 6v6 test at the same time, that is guaranteed to be screwed in some way, shape, or form.
Seen as a middle ground to roll queue and open queue.
This will give us a video interview with lead designer of 6v6 and Yapple by yourself.
Look at how Overwatch 2 heroes' abilities and updates work in a 6v6 environment before we expand to other types of tests. The second,
if you're gonna go goats, then which role are you gonna sacrifice? 1 DPS, tank, or support? If you're gonna go goats, you do 2 support goats. You do Juno Moira or something like that. The ability to be able to run them over is more important. What you want is everyone that can contribute to the pressure cycle. So you want the speed, you want D.Va, definitely, you want Reinhardt, definitely. You want Zarya, probably. That's going to make it really hard to break apart. And then it's possibly it's just back to old goats with Moira Lucio, but without the Brig in it. Brig made goats work, don't get me wrong, with their AoE healing, but Moira also made it work with AoE healing. So it's one of those where it's like, it's yet to be seen, less damage into it, less piercing stuff into it from DPS, so maybe it can survive with less AoE heals. Hot take, but goats with Ram, Rein, Junker Queen? No, definitely not, Leon D. Ram, Rein, maybe. Junker Queen, definitely not. It's one of those where okay, people kind of forget what makes goats work. Reinhardt is the hammer, okay? Reinhardt's the hammer. D.Va is the resource provider to the hammer. Zarya is the resource provider to the hammer. Zen was the resource provider to the hammer. Lucio was the resource provider to the hammer. It was all there for the hammer. That was all it was about. So what Ghost was tripling, quadrupling down, and then like quintupling down, I guess is the saying that I should say, for forcing all resources into Reinhardt. Okay, so if we go Ram and Reinhardt, what we're thinking is, what does Ram give Reinhardt? What he gives shield. That's what he gives. And that's fine. That's good. It's a good resource. But unless those two have enough sustain to just run over the enemy team, and I don't think you choose two hammers over one really strong hammer, if you get what I mean. Sending one guy that was absolutely on all the steroids, yeah. And people kind of misunderstood it, partially because it had so much glue holding it together that there was nothing you could do into the backline. So essentially, like, all of the bursty resources, when you weren't giving it to the Reinhardt and when you were being stable, they could all be used to peel for any character on the team. So yeah, I think quite a few of the similar to Goats things won't work because we don't really know why it worked in the first place. Never played Goats because I was cold at the time. Okay.
6v6 test during the season 14 mid-cycle.
Let's see if he can work out what the fuck this means.
Will be the classic 2-2-2 composition, but will incorporate some new principles we introduced with Overwatch 2, like less CC and hero reworks.
Yeah.
The 6v6
I'm also
tests
confused, Flats.
will have their own card in unranked alongside the other modes, and they will not take the place of other types of game modes like the seasonal events.
I can
or
hear the
quick
gears
play
working in
hacks.
Flats' mind.
We'll also be implementing a series of balance
Flats are working
changes
overtime for
that
this
will
one.
apply to these two test modes only. The power and survivability of tanks will go down in these 6v6 formats, and we'll be taking a look at whether we need many of the passives that we've added in Overwatch 2.
Okay, Flats, tell me what it means. I don't know what it means.
Okay, so there's a lot of thoughts that can be had there. My first one that jumps out to me is they're definitely terrified of making the 5v5 enjoyers mad for that weekend, and I think they've learned that lesson from Quick Play Hacked. Is like, you know how many people hop on the forums and Twitter and YouTube comments and they scream their head off. Like, in my head, I know that they have to be like kids, right? Like,
Two
there's no
types of
way-
streamers, ones that read it like they're in first grade, and ones that read it like XQC but don't understand anything. The trouble is the ones that read it like they're in first grade don't understand it either.
any
So
full-grown adult is getting on and screaming that they can't.
no, this is a fair comment.
Perfect quick play Overwatch for one weekend. Right?
Yeah,
Like, and it's
they can't put it in the quick play. I don't think putting it in the quick play hacked was a good idea. I think having it separate is good, but I feel like it should. What bottle are you about to open? I just have bottle openers hanging around that house. It's my old bar blade from when I used to work at a bar for a long time.
It's not even like it's insanely different. It's like the smallest minuscule of change, right? Like, I don't
like
know,
fidget toys.
What even was the last quick play hacked? It was like the passive changes, right? Where you could like choose like your
Middle
passive
finger,
or
spin
whatever,
round,
and it
ball
was like
open.
people were losing their mind. It's like, I wanted to play normal quick play. It's like, okay, play comp. It's the same shit. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like they've kind of learned their lesson from that, but
Okay, so you're just
also,
talking
like,
about this.
they're gonna be like hard on either side of like, see, it tank's terrible, so like it felt even worse than Overwatch with one tank, so like, you know, like that's why 5v5 is better. It's like you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's gonna be some variables that's kind of put in there, so we'll see. Upcoming game
Yeah,
modes,
he has no idea what's happening either. Let's go to his conclusions.
they're like made up 1-3 or 1 to 3 thing is dog.
I'm feathering the
first.
right key.
Like, it should be the opposite. You should give the people back what they're comfortable with first, because you got to realize there's going to be a lot of people that are only played Overwatch 2 and it's not going to be comfortable to them.
Wait. He's talking about this part again.
I'll leave. And
Interesting.
For all the players who are playing
Okay. This is probably
average Overwatch, you know, gamer Andy who gets off of, you know, gets out of school
Cool,
on
pass
a
the flats.
Friday and go home and wants to play some Overwatch, you know? Like, do they click the quick play button like they normally do and you click the roll queue button like they normally do, or are they gonna hit the new shiny 6v6 button, you know? Or is there just gonna be a massive surge of old players running back to try 6v6? I think it could be a world where there's both. I could think there's a world where it's neither. I think it sounds like it's going to determine. It's going to be based on if people come flooding back for it. But I do have one little caveat that I'm not a fan of, and I do think that it's a little sneaky against the 6v6 argument. And it's that they're not running out of the gate in season 14 with the 2-2-2 format. They're going to this. They're like made up 1-3 or 1-3-1. So what's going to end up happening is running the 3 max one first, so close to the start of the season, means all the players who are playing Overwatch 2 like normal, plus everybody coming back to the 6v6 test the first time. Like, let's be honest, the first wave of people coming back to the first playtest is going to be much larger than the second wave, right? And if this max 3 minimum 1 thing is dog shit, then those people who have been so excited to try 6v6
Yep.
are going to be really disappointed. And
Whoop! Fair enough, Flats. You know what? I had concerns about you, but you are yeah, fair enough. Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. That's exactly my point. Yeah. Good man. Good man. Reddit doesn't like Flats, but I love him. I kiss him right now.
You think it's ass? And
I was yapping. What did Flats say? I'm not replaying it just because of you. Flats said that people will run back to try the minimum 1 max 3 format in season 13, then they won't try the 222 format in season 14. And if people think that the min 1 max 3 format is bad, then people will think the other one's bad regardless. Yeah.
And they're not gonna come back for the second one because they're probably not even gonna know the second
No,
one.
don't watch the video at 1.75 times speed, please. I need my watch hours. It doesn't send it out to people if I don't get watch hours.
So in my personal opinion, these should be swapped. I think the only way you give 6v6 a fair playtest, and it actually gives them a fair chance to actually try the game in that format, and also gives people the opportunity to capitalize on the excitement around potentially trying it, is these two are reversed.
God, what a man.
Crazy, we want to try this first.
Yeah, Flats, you give it to him. Yeah.
Like, it should be the opposite. You should give the people back what they're comfortable with first, because you got to realize there's going to be a lot of people that are only played Overwatch 2 and
you know what, Flats? You could yap about 7v7 as long as you're wrong, as long as you want. As long as you're right about this, I don't care. It's absolutely fine to me.
Going to be comfortable to them. And if you mix, these people coming back expecting something they're comfortable with something that they're maybe not comfortable with, combined with these new players that have never tried 6v6 ever, and then they don't like it either, it means that the reaction is probably going to be overall more negative than potentially even positive. That is almost unfair to the argument. So these two should be swapped. I don't like that they're doing the standard 1 second later on by mid-cycle. It seems kind of like cheating, and it seems like it's kind of favoring...
Careful, Ralph, you might start a new shit. Please stop.
IV5, to try to shut it down.
I can't be in love with everyone at once.
I'm not... I've talked about this before. At this point, I actually don't give a... I don't care if we play 5v5. I don't care if we play 6v6. I think both have benefits. I think both have downsides. That's why I originally proposed the 7v7 argument.
I am on top of my fence.
And the headaches of 5v5.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give it.
Q times and stuff like that. That was the whole point.
You can yap about 7v7. It's okay. I don't mind.
I don't really like that they're doing these in this weird order. And I think that their reasoning again is to set expectations low for 6v6 by doing this user game mode first and then hitting them later with the classic. But that's not how it's gonna play out. The general public. Remember when that blog went out? There was some tweet that had 150,000 likes of Overwatch 2 is gonna try 6v6 again. Everyone's obviously shitting on what's the point of 2? But people were still knew about it. And they're oh shit, that's an event that's gonna be coming up at some point in the future. These should
rebrand to Overwatch. Overwatch no 2s, rebrand it. So they have this community post for the sorry, they have this job listing at the moment. Where's the job listing being put up? I saw it on I saw it on my Discord. So Blizzard is on a quest to find a dedicated product marketing consultant to join the Overwatch 2 marketing team in Irvine, California on a 6-month contract. Individual will support the marketing team with a go-to market planning and execution of a major feature for the Overwatch 2. Okay, so there is a very small possibility that this is for 6v6. Realistically, we all know this is for the mobile game, right? We all know this, okay? We know it's for the mobile game, but there's a very small possibility this is for 6v6. Other possibilities are obviously pickable passives and stuff like that. I don't think that's a big enough of an announcement that they will change the core format of the game for it. But yeah, it's going to be Overwatch Mobile. By the way, it's pretty clear that Overwatch Mobile is literally just Overwatch, but playable on a mobile. There is nothing else put into it. I want an Overwatch gacha game. That's what I want. I want to be able to spend my hard-earned money on fake stuff on the internet so I can get skins for my my Tracer. Overwatch Mobile is killing 7v73. I don't even care. You know what? Give me a what gacha. Make bank on your... But the great thing is, if they make bank on Overwatch gacha, they'll be incentivized to build on the story and lore of Overwatch, such as cinematics and other stuff like that, because the IP clearly is good enough that it's worth investing into. See, Overwatch gacha. Let the gamblers and the addicts and the idiots of the world pay for my video games. That's what I want. That's what I want. That'd be absolute. At least the monetization would be more fair for gacha. Oh, shit. More waifus, yes. They're going to release more 18 to 20-year-old female characters. 3 out of 4 so far, no watch do. Can we get a fourth 18 to 20-year-old female character? Oh, God. Honkai already does this shit. Overwatch can make it work. Yeah, it's not complicated. They loved mobile games. What's wrong with Overwatch Gacha? I don't care as long as it's a separate studio and they maybe share art assets and stuff like that. That's fine with me. New Overwatch race dropped. It's little girls that are actually 500 years old. Yeah, honestly, I shouldn't be arrested. They're 500 years, officer. I promise, yeah. Still confused why you're confused about the 2 paragraphs. It basically said they won't do a WoW Classic, but do 6v6 in the current game and general philosophy. Jump in, like, you want to talk to me, Satan? Jump into chat, tell me what this means, okay? Read it live, and then tell me what that means. Does it, these 2 paragraphs here, besides experimenting with a format that could be seen as a middle ground to role queue and open queue, this will give us a look at how Overwatch 2 heroes, abilities, and updates work in a 6v6 environment or expand to other types of tests. Cool. You can test during 14 mid-cycle. Is this just the 6v... Because there's 2 6v6 tests and there's 2 5v5 tests, right? So this referring to the 5v5 test, this referring to the 6v6 tests? Also, tank isn't as ass with the new tanks. Yeah, talking about roll queue. Love you, Didact. So you put the out, everyone. No, Satan's a coward? Or Satan's either typing something or a coward. I thought you meant the last 2 paragraphs. These two. With the brackets, this is what I'm confused about.
Be flipped.
We'll go back to letting Flats tell extreme truths.
That's my feedback. If it's still early enough, if these should be that there's time to change it, flip these. If these aren't flipped, in my personal opinion, you do not give 6v6 the chance it actually deserves to actually be tested as a good game mode, and you're kind of shooting it in the foot.
Is Ingu's Satan? Is that the same person? I've got somebody in chat. Yeah, just be warned. If you don't make sense, I'm gonna ban you immediately. No. Hey. Hi. Right. Hi. So I'm fucking confused, and I'm not trying to be awkward. I'm just confused. Maybe I'm being dumb.
Do you know World of Warcraft Classic?
Yes. Intimately.
So that game was supposed to be released with like a minute-long CC and all that crap that they did in Warcraft Vanilla.
Yes, they did basic quality of life things, right?
Yeah. So like this, it seems that, well, we want to do a WoW Classic where you will re-experience the old experience, but that's like basically what you have been doing.
Yeah, with sensible changes. So what do you think the first test is going to be? So they've got the 2 6v6 tests. It says one's going to be a look at how Overwatch 2 heroes, abilities, and updates work in a 6v6 environment. And then the next one's going to be incorporate new principles introduced in Overwatch 2, like less CC and hero reworks. So do you think that the first one's going to be a little bit classic-like, or I'm just so confused?
No, I think, do you remember the arcade mode?
Yes.
Fuck, I don't remember which one that was. I think it was April's Fools. Like, you could just select whatever, and then they will lock out the other roles.
Sure, yeah.
And like that idea, I think they want to go for with, so like, in-between role and open queue. So like, if you select 2 tanks, 3 tanks, then that role is locked.
Yeah.
And, if the other 2 people select support, then you have to play DPS.
Sure, that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about what they're actually going to do to the heroes' abilities and balance and stuff like that for the test.
Well, I don't say, but basically you won't have a repeat of the, what is it called? The XQC clip, right? Where they get slapped, charged, hooked, and yeah. Like they look at...
Let me explain the second one. You know how May loses her freeze, and we were like, why didn't they release this change while we were waiting 3 years for Overwatch 2? They're basically doing that.
I think so.
In the first test or the second test, Indy? That's my question. When is May freeze going to be removed? Both? So what's the difference between the 2 tests? That's what I'm trying to work out.
Like the other one is that you can have flexible, not 2-2-2, right?
Oh, so the first one is 6v6 but flexible. The second one is 2-2-2 lock. But they've just explained it really badly, and it's going to be the same balancing.
Yeah. That's the only sensible. Otherwise, they would have to recreate all the old abilities and stuff.
One is flexible, one is locked. They've explained one as Overwatch 2 heroes and abilities and updates work in a 6v6 environment. And then they explained the other one that they're going to incorporate new principles introduced to Overwatch 2, right? So that implies that these principles introduced in Overwatch 2 aren't there in the first test. Am I the only person in the world being crazy? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't. Well, either way, regardless of how they formulated it, I don't think they're going to bring back like May freeze and stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Thanks for trying to help me. I appreciate it.
I think that's the gist of it anyway.
Okay, dude. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they're gonna do. It kind of seems like it'll be the rogue queue plus 1 slot, and they have to fill the new stuff in the actual 6v6. Okay, so now you confuse me too. Now you're getting it, guys, right? Now you're getting me. Roast private crying channel? Yeah, haven't you seen Roast private crying channel? I've always had my private crying channel in the Discord. It's why I pull people when they've been naughty. They come into my private crying channel with me. You wouldn't know you're not naughty enough. Actually, to be fair, you are naughty enough.
And using it as a cover of this min-max limit. You can try the min-max limit thing. You can still do that if you want,
we're done with flats. Flats haven't given me the answer. Let's go on to the next one. You know what? Let's go for the fun one. This one.
What is bringing back 6v6 in Season 14? It should release before the end of 2024. What? Because I didn't know. Did they want to go back? I thought they went back to 35. No, they didn't go back. I don't understand. So they never went back to that, but now they're redoing it.
He's confused.
And follow scores. UEFA Champions League official sponsor.
Wait, 6v6.
Oh, he's realized.
Wait, 6v6. I wasn't even looking at the numbers.
He just nods at the camera and that's the entire clip. Okay, well, that's interesting. He was clearly excited. Yeah, average reading comprehension. He has no idea what's happened. There are 2 types of streamer, yeah. Yeah, but yeah, completely average XQC. It really sucks when everything you ever see is like clipped the same, but Stylosa, go.
Massive update to Overwatch 2. Hello guys and welcome to the channel. And these
The
are
most
the type of
intelligent
updates
Overwatch
that I
frame
absolutely love. I don't care about whatever skin collab is coming down the line.
Bro's got
That's
dementia,
not
it's a
content.
serious
That's
illness.
just cosmetics and they're just there to generate money. They
Okay.
don't add anything new to the game. What I want to see is innovation.
Right, so Overwatch 2's feature could be 6v6, continuing the 6v6 discussion. What's next? Min 1 max 3, classic rogue queue. This might actually be interesting. Maybe he does something apart from just read the notes. Nope.
And development.
Nope, they're on the screen. He's just reading them. Okay, let's go to the end. Any commentary on this? We got to wait until they're off the screen to see if he's actually going to say anything interesting.
This to me is they don't have the data on how the Overwatch 2 balance and heroes will actually work in this type of format. Now, if you think about it, they've got the data from Overwatch 1, but none of that's relevant anymore because all the heroes have been changed.
Yeah, and they don't have eyes because they can't look at anything else that we've done since. Despite the fact that this has been extensively tested at other people's expense, not at Blizzard, on Blizzard's dime. Other people have done it for them. I can't see anything scary.
Saying here they're not going to make any changes to any of the heroes as such. There's not going to be specific balance changes, but it's going to be a case of what does the data look like, how many people are playing tank, what the team comps look like, how many times do people actually change role in a game. Because, you know, sometimes you might think, well, actually, I could play support in this game, even though I've queued in as DPS. I don't know. Maybe you want to make a change. Now, obviously, back in the day, all us old Overwatch players, we could do that, and we've experienced that. But new players, especially in role queue, you've not really been able to do that. But there's another change, and this one is quite interesting. So, the second 6v6 test during Season 14 mid-cycle will be the classic 2-2-2 composition.
Oh, so he thinks that the first one's going to be Min 1 Max 3, the second one's going to be classic rogue queue, but he doesn't say anything about whether there's going to be changes to them in terms of balance.
But
so is the Min 1 Max 3 going to have no balance change, and the next one gonna okay.
We'll incorporate some new principles we introduced with Overwatch 2, like less CC and hero reworks. The 6v6 test will have their own card in unranked alongside other modes, and they will not take the place of other types of game modes in seasonal events or quick play hack. We'll also be implementing a series of balance changes that will apply to these 2 test modes only. The power and survivability of tanks will go down in these 6v6 formats, as well as taking a look at whether we need many of the passives that we've added in Overwatch 2. So I kind of take back what I just said previously about the first test. They are doing balance changes for that.
Oh, it's a live react shit. You can never tell whether it's a live react or whether Stylosa has actually put thought into things before he's done them. If it's not a live react, he probably doesn't have any good commentary. Shit.
That's my mistake. I thought they're actually only doing that for the second test. But rereading that, they are definitely doing it for both tests. This is going to be interesting, and also touching on the whole thing of the passives that have been introduced in Overwatch 2. Do you actually
Wait, what? No. He's confused as well. Am I crazy? I'm not going insane, right? He's also
about the
confused.
first test. They are doing balance changes for that, it would seem. That's my mistake. I thought they're actually only doing that for the second test. But rereading that, they are definitely doing it for both tests.
Yeah, he's confused as well. They're all confused. And no, you guys think I'm stupid, but yeah, nobody knows. I just read that, and that's contradicted the last thing, so I guess what they said most recently might be true, but I'm a bit confused.
This is going to be interesting, and also touching on the whole thing of
Google
passives
Maps
that
will
have been
last.
introduced in Overwatch 2. Do you actually need them? This is going to be really great, you know, guys, because
They want the best game. They may be incompetent, but they're not going to ruin it on purpose. Of course, yeah, of course.
I don't know. Like, they could come
No,
out
Ralph,
of this,
you're
but you know
crazy.
what, the
Yeah,
game's
there's no
actually better
gaslighting happening here.
than 6v6. We didn't think it would work, but actually it is working. And they're finally committing to doing this and actually collecting data. And the best way to do this is live with a game mode that hopefully a lot of people play. So it gives them good feedback.
I was actually talking to Didact about this this yesterday. I thought it was actually a really interesting discussion, so maybe I'll just bring it to you straight as we said it. I think that testing things is actually one of the worst ways to actually get information on things. Okay? In the game. I think testing things is almost completely useless because all testing things gets you is people's feelings and statistics. And if there's ever been more misleading things, feelings and statistics are the most misleading things ever. So what's the alternative to testing things? The alternative to testing things is having a well-rounded theory of what should be happening and testing your theory against something. If you don't have a theory of what should be happening and what incentive structures you've made and what other kind of like things are biasing people, then all that's going to happen when you test things is you're going to either reconfirm your own biases or you're going to just take a vertical slice of the community's biases. I think there's a real big problem with statistics and feelings and testing that's happening where like the classic it's like the Spilo response. You know what? So we've seen these Sombra changes. Who knows what's going to happen? And I'm like, I fucking know what's going to happen because I feel like I have a well-rounded idea of what's happening in the game and what the kind of like flow of the game and the design of the game is. I know what's been changed. I know what ramifications that's going to have. As to whether it's going to work, the only way I can test my theories is by making these theories and testing against what actually happens. And it turns out that what you think is going to happen and what does happen is the same multiple times in a row. Then you tested your theory and your theory is actually correct, right? So we're going to this it's so hard, man, because I feel like this playtest is only going to reconfirm biases and they're never gonna work out whether these biases are created by things that they've done wrongly or correctly in the test. They're never gonna work out what degree of it was actual like games design problems, format problems, or just the player base tuning into a mode they don't know how to fucking play problems. It's so difficult, right? Because there's a negative feedback, then we don't. But maybe that's me, no true Scotsmaning this test, right? Maybe I'm being unreasonable. Maybe I'm saying this on purpose in order to move the goalpost and other things like that. And I'll never be able to argue properly against other people because they're always going to think that. Because me saying, I know what's going to happen, they haven't tested it well enough, is always, well, they can't do everything, dude. It can't be perfect. You can't have a perfect test. So whenever they do test it, you move the goalpost by saying it should have been better. And I have this really big like problem with myself at the moment where, yeah, as a prophet, let me reveal the future. Blizzard will do the min 1 max 3 and implement the first balance changes. The 222 will have some differences. For example, maybe they'll keep the DPS passive for the first test, but remove it for the second. And that will be their justification for putting Rollock as the second test. Okay, but will they have flashbang on Cassidy in the first test or the second test? Somebody tell me.
So what about the current season, in Season 13? So these are the upcoming modes this season. We'll be hosting 2 5v5 format experiments in Season.
Okay, don't care about the rest. If players play 6v6, they'll develop it. The future of Overwatch 2, let's just do
this. The upcoming months are going to have a ton of excitement with quick play hacks.
No, they won't have it either. It was revealed to me in a dream.
Limit 2 and Kingmaker in Season 13. Multiple 6v6 tests in Season 14. And maybe another special surprise just around the corner. Obviously.
Okay, he's just still reading. Okay, let's go next, J3. Come on. Come on, dude. Tell me what the fuck Blizzard are doing. Please tell me. Those 2 paragraphs will haunt me in my dreams tonight.
V6 discussion. Oh my god, let's see.
Cast will be the same in both. Then why do they say they're toning down? Or they do Overwatch 2 toning down of CC in the second one? What does it mean?
See this? Welcome back to another Director's Take. Back in July, we opened the conversation around...
I know you guys are thinking, oh, Ralph is really hung up on this. This really matters. Like, really matters. If they're going to chone back the CC reduction for the first test and put it back in for the second test, that massively changes it, right? J3 for info? He might be able to read. I don't know. I've tested a couple of content creators. Some of them can.
6v6 and 5v5, and now we like to continue that conversation as well as share a few updates coming in season 13 and 14.
Right, we got to wait. Is he just gonna? Okay,
season,
we're getting there. Okay, around here.
Supports, or you can have 3 tanks, 1 DPS, 2 supports. Yeah, I don't know, chat. I think it needs to be 2-2-2. I don't think, because if you introduce maximum 3, then I think some roles are gonna be broken. Like tank, for an example. Like if an open queue right now, it's whoever has the most tanks. Fuck DPS. DPS.
San, you don't you fucking dare.
Tanks.
By the way, everyone, we're doing 6v6 pugs tomorrow and not Sunday because I'm going out on Sunday. Okay, tomorrow.
With your supports, then you're gonna win. It needs to be 2-2-2. I'm down to try this, but I don't think it's gonna work because if, like I said, if you have 3 tanks, the tanks.
Okay, Jeffrey, I don't cap. Okay.
Correctly. So as long as that switch doesn't break the minimum 1, max 3.
Okay.
Very.
Yeah.
That also could be seen as interesting. Very interesting.
Okay.
Besides
here we go.
Experimenting with a format that also could be seen as a middle ground to role queue and open queue, this will also give us a look at how Overwatch 2 heroes, abilities, and updates work in a 6v6 environment before we expand to other types of tests.
Amthos, that's kind of what I'm worried about, that they're not going to do any big balance changes between the 2 tests. And therefore, if they're not going to do any big balance changes between the 2 tests, they're not actually experimenting with the format at all. In terms of the way that the gameplay actually works, they're just changing the numbers. And I'm a bit concerned if that is, because the game actually does need some interesting changes. For instance, what happens if we do this test and Doomfist is as OP as he was in his tank form as he is in 7HSAW? What the fuck happens then? Is Doomfist stomping all the lobbies just something people are going to take as this, well, it's a 6v6 problem, Doomfist bad? Right? Is that what's going to happen? Or are they going to do sensible changes that anyone could tell them? If they just, like, had 5 minutes in the conversation with Toasty about what problems can we stop reoccurring that have happened in your 6v6 test, they could pay him a $5. I bet he'd probably do it, but... yeah, maybe they'll do big changes for the first one, and then based on the date of the first one, they'll do more big changes. What is this thing to communicate, if not this?
The second 6v6 test during Overwatch 14 mid-cycle will be the classic 2-2-2 composition, but will incorporate some new principles we introduced with Overwatch 2, like less CC and hero reworks. Ooh, interesting. The 6v6 tests will have their own card in the unranked alongside other modes, and then they will not.
J3 has no fucking idea. He just went straight past. Oh, he's got something interesting at the end. Maybe there's some commentary to go with his reading.
Teacher on the day. Look. Ready? You have 6v6, and then you got 5v5. Look at that. Right? We're all going here.
Man, this streamer's actually literate.
Now 6v6. This is where it gets complicated. That's not sus. That's 6v6. It's not sus. In 6v6, we have the 1,
Sussy
3
backer.
limit. Make sure you guys have your pens and papers ready because we're taking a test on this later, chat. Hey.
Is he explaining what I'm trying to what? Let's just go back. Let's just double check that he's explaining.
Look at this. I'm gonna even. So far, from what I understand, is that we are having a 5v5 and a 6v6.
Why is it so hard to work out? Okay, let's go to
the 1, 2, 2,
2. Yep. I'm there. I'm with
limit.
you. I'm with you.
So there you go.
I'm with you.
We have two.
Yep.
We have two
Yep.
game modes
Yep.
right there.
Yep.
But then in the 5v5,
No. What are they gonna do in these game modes? Are they gonna be?
What is it? Oh no, that was the 5v5,
Okay.
So in the 6v6, we have the 2-2-2.
Why didn't they just have 4 paragraphs explaining clearly what each one?
2 game modes. And then in the 5v5, we have a Limit 2 game mode that they're coming out with and a Kingmaker game mode. Now,
Okay.
how are you honestly going to balance all that, huh? You can't
Fair.
even balance the game right now.
Fair fucking answer, J3. Fair. I mean, yeah.
What they need to do, I'm going to show you guys what they need to do. Let me make this bigger.
I don't know how you managed it. I wasn't confused when I first read it. It's because you're like a streamer. Do you know what streamers do? They read something and don't internalize any of it.
This is what Overwatch needs to do. Cut. This is J3. J3's Overwatch.
But I'm incredibly intelligent, smart, and handsome, and humble, so...
5v5 and 6v6. What they need to do, chat, is scrap this. Say, hey, we made mistake. 6v6 takes over, and 6v6 is a 2v2v2, because this is the crown. That's the crown right there. 2v2, bro. That's what. Like, do you guys not understand basic English?
Okay, fair enough, J3. Oh, it's only got 5k views. Oh, shit. Oh, I just needed to have more. Oh, damn. What else have we got? Emongg. Okay, let's go, Emongg.
We have a blog post.
Can Emongg read? We're going to go real fast in these. It's been too much, I know.
That. A quick play hack does not mean it's going into the game. I can't even... Before we expand to other types of tests.
Okay, we are.
The second...
Okay. You ready, guys? Let's go.
Also give us a look at how Overwatch 2 heroes, abilities, and updates work in a 6v6 environment before we expand to other types of tests.
Yes.
The second 6v6 test during Season 14 mid-cycle will be the classic 2-2-2 composition, but will incorporate some new principles we introduced with Overwatch 2. Like,
my exact question is, are these new principles they introduced with Overwatch 2 there going to be included in this test? What are these new principles? And if they have the Overwatch 2 heroes abilities and updates, does that include the CC that is the Overwatch 2 abilities, heroes, and updates that they changed for Overwatch 2? Or is it only being changed for the second test?
Less CC and hero reworks. I do like the idea of that. So all thanks to the Tier 1, thank you. The 6v6 tests will have their own card and unranked.
No, you went straight past it. Okay.
KarQ, today we have an update for the Overwatch.
KarQ's probably just going to read it. He's the reading person.
Tanks will go down in these 6v6 formats, and we'll be taking another look at the old school back. So they did, and they iterated off old. Both games coexist. Old is doing better than new.
I bet KarQ sounds like a child in person. Can you hear how post-process his mic is?
Play old school RuneScape. I'm an Iron Man. If you guys are rating Theater of Blood.
In real person, you go up to KarQ and he's like, hey guys, nice to meet you.
Chambers, whatever. Hit me up. CC, FC, KarQ. But you know, this shit works. If you like this 6v6 mode, guys, like play it. Be critical, be honest. Tell your friends that 6v6.
Hey guys. I can be KarQ. Here we go. Okay, is my voice sweet and sultry now? It sounds more or less the same on video without the mic setup. Okay, fair enough. Very slight aggressive curve. No.
Is back.
You're underwater in the closet.
Okay. A shot, especially those who quit the game.
I might sound terrible now.
Try it out. I mean, Overwatch 2 is free, right? If they used to love, especially if they used to love the game, give this one an honest whirl and be like, hey, wait, maybe this isn't so bad. Or, you know, oh, it's still dog shit. Oh, God. You know, at least try it. Anyways, they need the data, so more to come closer to Season 14.
More than before? Shit, I buggered it. Oh, no, it was for a bad joke. I'm sorry, guys. I screwed it for a bad joke. It happens to the best of us, but if we do that, a little bit less aggressive, that's probably fine, right?
Upcoming months are going to have a ton of excitement with Quick Play Hack, the Limit 2, Kingmaker in Season 13.
Hello. Do I sound like a normal human today, or do I sound weird today? Control Z does not work. I tried it. Thanks for I tried the basic.
Multiple 6v6 tests.
Let's see, free. Okay, I'm giving up. Okay, yeah, nobody fucking knows. Yeah, nobody knows. You still sound British. I'm sorry for my loss. Yeah. 3 distinct possibilities, only 2 of them are plausible. Yeah, it's quite clear they're doing the 1-1-1-3 lock, and they're doing the 2-2-2. But it's unclear in general what's going to happen with the balance. And that's the only thing I fucking cared about, quite frankly. That's all I cared about.